everybody, welcome to the table, At the Table with Ginger. I am your host, and this program is all about how we think about connection differently with great people contributing to meaningful conversation. Last month, we had the illustrious Rich Chang, fantastic community builder, software, like so many irons in this fabulous fire. This month, we have another perspective entirely. When you think about what you read, do you ever think about who's writing that work? That's real concerted effort. That's skill, that's practice, that's sometimes years of experience that is really valuable. This month's guest, a longtime friend who we met when she solicited me to be interviewed for an article she wrote years ago, Claire Sykes, a wonderful friend and a true professional writer who has helped me rethink how I connect. And so I want to share Claire with you. Claire, we're so glad you're here. Thanks for making time.
Thank you, Ginger. Thanks for wanting me.
Absolutely.
And thanks to all who are here. Huh?
Yes, great. Claire, I remember the first time we talked. I remember your voice was very soothing, and we had, it felt to me like a more than typical conversation. Do you remember our first conversation?
I don't remember the details of it, but I do remember when I found you. And then I just remember your energy. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have no trouble getting words out of this woman. I found you. I want to clear, that I was searching online. I had an article about brainstorming to write. And I thought, I got to find people to interview for this. And I'm searching and I found Ginger, and it was for the Rotary Club's publication. And I thought, I'm calling her. And so that really did work out. And then we became friends over the years. That was like 12 or 13 years ago.
It was. Yeah, it was absolutely. I remember where I was sitting in my home in Ames, Iowa. Phone rang and it was you. And I remember where I was sitting. And the power of connection is making those moments memorable, because moments by themselves aren't memorable, just like words aren't necessarily memorable. So why Claire is here today to share with us is I have personally and professionally learned so much from Claire. We've been friends, like she said, since the kickoff 12 or 13 years ago, but who's counting? We've also experienced, she teaches great class, she writes freelance, she edits, and you can find out all her great services when you're interested, when you know somebody who really wants somebody who is deeply interested and curious in the world, at sykeswrites.com. Larry will put that in the show notes and in the chat. Claire has a really focused way of making sure that what she brings to the table is really meaningful and a boost to the connection of what her clients are doing, whether they're, well, Claire, give us a cross section of the different kinds of great people you work with, entities. You don't have to give specifics, but give us some of the bandwidths of the people you serve with your writing.
Well, first, I want to say I really thought about connection when you invited me to be on this. And I decided that, I connect people to their stories and their stories to people. So, with words that invite, engage, inform, and inspire. And so I write mostly magazine articles and blog posts. And these are in the areas of art, the arts, health and wellness, and the human side of bioscience, philanthropy and development, and business and community. So it's a wide variety. I've been at this since 1990 full time. And businesses and organizations also turn to me for web pages, white papers, things like that, and video interviews. Sometimes that's started up, and then I edit whatever anybody wants. Scientist grant proposals I polish up, and books, nonfiction books. So it's a wide variety.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding heads here as we're shooting live and recording, like, oh yeah, grants, oh yeah, white paper, oh yeah. Everybody has internal communication. Yeah. Claire, why would people hire a professional writer when everybody can, quote, write?
Because not everybody can write.
Oh.
Just like, I can't.
Little true thoughts, y'all.
you can write with a pen and you can form words and sentences, but when you want to really gather the story, whatever it is, whether you're interviewing people, whether I'm interviewing people, or just getting it from information out there, there's a way that I have to connect with that material, with my curiosity, my intellect, and my sense of, the broadness of the world and how things connect. Sometimes that comes into play very nicely. And then put that into words, which I have a lot of experience doing in terms of thinking of how my client wants those words for their audience. So I'm always thinking, and not everyone thinks like that kind of broad sweep, but also, there's a lot of bad grammar out there, and people are, they don't feel very secure with their writing.
I hope that anytime,
just do it.
Right. I hope anytime you see bad grammar on my sites or any of my work, you'll tell me.
Oh, you want me to tell you? Okay.
I do.
Well, I'm not a real red pencil person, and I don't care how emails sound, I'm not that picky, but I do think that just like I would not try to do my own tech work, with my computer, I've got a web person and I can't draw very well, so I wouldn't illustrate anything. We turn to others for that expertise.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I remember how we gotten to know each other. Like you said, I was in Rotary at the time, and I was for the Rotary magazine, Rotary International, great service club. And I remember you asked me if I was a brainstorm expert, and I so wanted to say yes. And I think it was maybe for a blog post or something where that must have tripped your search tag or whatever that was. But I remember thinking in that moment, oh, nuts, here's a great opportunity to be interviewed by somebody and you said, well, aren't you a brainstorming expert? I'm like, no. And then we still kept going. So the balloon didn't have to deflate. And I think that's one of the messages of connecting. Sometimes we think we're blowing up this balloon to elevate and to go in a certain direction. And then we realize there's a whole different balloon. Look at this. This is a great friendship. We stayed at your home. We know your cats. You have the cabana, all this great things. You've thrown a dinner party. It's so much fun to experience the possibilities. And then when you were teaching some of your classes, do you still teach the classes, Claire?
No, I wasn't teaching that much. Occasionally I would go into a company and do a workshop, which I could still do, but I haven't.
Absolutely. Highly recommend anybody watching this who wants to have a workshop for any number of team, contact Claire and have a conversation. What is that? I still have those notes and I still reference them, and I do a lot of writing. Just like you said, Claire, there's a whole bunch of professionals who do something that they're excellent at. Let's tap into them instead of trying to force ourselves. I don't have to be great at this. I know what I'm great at. And I'm going to have other people around me that are great at what they do. In fact, if you're watching this, if you're part of this live, I look around this room yes, every single person, I can wheel off what they're great at. And one thing they're great at is realizing that the team around them is also great at what they do. And it's a compliment. There's no deficit to that. And the writing notes I took at your workshop are still really useful. So when we think about how you think about writing, and you've shared, we've had extensive conversation well, how do you do this, Claire? Because we're both super curious people.
I don't know how I do it sometimes.
Right. And we're both definitely paper people. I know there's going to be some hackles. People what? You don't use electronic tools? No, Claire and I go file cabinets with notepads. Anyway, there's going to be no crash on that one. We can still access that one. That works. What are some of when you get ready to write, when you get ready to, like you said, to invite, engage, inspire, inform, I love that string. When you're thinking about how your client not only anticipates you helping them with your writing and the writing that becomes theirs for their community, what kind of mindset do you prepare yourself, and how do you get into that mindset, Claire, when you're say you're writing an article for an education institution that serves multiple let's say it's a hospital. You're writing an internal article for a hospital to go to their department heads. How do you start to get into the head mindset of your work?
Okay, well, let's take something specific. So my day could be, I'm working on an arts article and different phases. I'm working on a health related article, and I'm also out there promoting myself. That could all happen in one day. And
Okay.
maybe there's a couple of other articles at different stages. So I'm able to compartmentalize, first of all. So let's say it's the hospital magazine article, which I do quite a bit of.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I get into that compartment, I think about, like, who are the people that, my first thought is, who are the people reading this? What would they want if I were them, which I would be? What would I want to hear? What would I want to read? So that's my first thought, is who's reading this? And then when it comes to the actual article, I do my research. I'll research the topic. I'll either be given names of people to interview, or I'll have to search those out myself, which is challenging and fun. And then when I'm ready to interview this person, because it all starts well before I'm actually sitting down and writing, which I want to say, I don't write with a pen anymore. When I write an article, I do use the computer right off. Just so you know, my first articles I did write by hand, even though there was a computer in the room. That was 1990 though. Okay, so then I really think I've researched the person as much as I can. So I've come up with my questions, I've seen what other people have asked them, and then I get into their world. I've been in their world in my research, number one. And my style of interviewing is sort of conversational, although they do most of the talking, of course, but it could last longer than, I don't know, it could go on for an hour or more. And I ask deeper and deeper questions. If they say, well, I grew up in this particular small town and that's why I'm this way, I'll say, well, what was it about this small town? They'll give me, and then I'll keep going deeper and deeper. Well, what was it about that neighbor in that small town that, I keep going. Now, I may not use this, but I have it, so that I've got all the ingredients. And when I sit down to write with all my interviews and all my information, I can stir up this nice thick sauce from all the ingredients. And then it's from all of that, there's going to be some depth. There's going to be greater meaning. There's going to be details. And all the while, I'm thinking of the readership, what my client wants for their readership. And so it's not about my style. It's not about it's how this particular article will convey best to my client's readership. That is really fun, because I could be working on, a music related article for, chamber music magazine or something. And then, a health article while I'm interviewing people with muscular dystrophy who just lost their wife and their mother within a matter of months, something like that. And they live a very difficult, challenging life, but very positive. That was my most recent article about goal setting for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So these could be really diverse. And so able to switch gears and find the part of myself that can relate to that person that I'm speaking with. There's also that element too. And being able to read them on the phone.
So good.
Yeah, it's all by phone, sometimes by Zoom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It feels like, in listening to you, and I always love listening to you, Claire, you have such a beautiful voice. I find it very soothing. In listening to you, one thing I hear is that you follow the platinum rule. Have you heard of that?
No.
A couple people here live are nodding their heads. The platinum rule is treating others as they want to be treated, instead of the golden rule, treating people like you want to be treated. Well, wait a minute, that's still you centric. You're really focused in on, okay, where are they? Like, literally, what's their seat at the table?
Yeah.
Pull that chair out and pop a squat and say, oh, what's it like to be them?
Right.
So it's so good, Claire.
Yeah.
Clearly we could go for 6 hours or more.
What's that?
We could go for hours with you.
I know, but I just want to say thank you for mentioning that. I forgot that that's what it's called, because that is what I do. I don't, the golden rule, no, that's about me. You're right. It is about what do they want. Now, if they want me to beat them up, okay, I'm not going to do that. But, you know, but I'm gonna, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So good. So good. So Claire, there's so many ways that you connect, and so many ways I've learned from you how you connect, everything from how you call people on the phone, how you stay in touch with previous clients, how you keep track, and the modern CRM, so to speak, customer relationship management, like that's, you have your own system of doing that to stay connected, to stay top of mind in a way that is value focused for them. Like, what do they need? It's not pushy. And I know that everybody here live, I personally know everybody who's here live. Like, yes, every single person who hears live is that kind of person too. So everybody here, this is the choir, which is fantastic. So first of all, if you're here live and you have a way that you love to connect and you want to put that in the chat, feel free to do that. And then Larry, would you please put Claire's site up in the chat one more time, please? It's Sykes Writes, SYKESWRITES.com. And so Claire, where I want to go next is, there's so many ways you connect, which I started with. And something you held up before we went on to the show was a brainstorm map. And I want to give you the opportunity to share 3 ways you connect. And I really want this one to be the first one. And so we can see that, hold it up for about 3 seconds, Claire. And it's a simple drawn map. And Claire, I remember you teaching this in your workshop. Would you explain just a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, I forget the name of the woman who started it as a way of brainstorming. And this is what I used it for. I also collect, gather for articles for, all the sources that I collect as a mapping out of the different categories of information. But this nub I've called, it's like think of it like a wheel with spokes. I call it the circle of connection. I came up with that. And so there are 10 things that I came up with I never thought about like connection in this way. It's thanks to Ginger. And I came up with 10 of them, starting with connection with self. That to me is the most important. And so I could go through these, but you asked about, so I just went through and I came up with 10 of them, connecting with self and making
what's at the center of the circle of connection? Where do you start?
I start with that I care about myself and my life. I start with that. So that feeds everything, like what matters to me, what do I want with my life? That's gonna tell me who I want to connect with and go further with and stay in connection with and form community with, all that. So it starts with care. Then do you want me to go through the 10? I'll go through the 10, yeah.
And are the 10 the spokes?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I start with that. And then it's connecting with myself and communing with myself. That's getting closer to myself to know I care enough about myself. Then I want to commune with myself and think, who is it? What is it? Why? All of that, of anything in my life. But when it comes to connecting with people, and then being curious and open. So that I have naturally, and I'm very eclectic. So thank God I found an profession. Found a profession that supports and feeds my curiosity and eclecticism. And then to make the connection. So in business, it's more than just hi, and handshaking. There's by this point there's 6 other steps coming.
Right.
But to make a connection, it can be everything from Ginger connecting me with somebody like you mentioned earlier, and cold calling. Hello, I thought you'd like to know that I exist. Literally, sometimes I've said that. Networking. I could meet, when I started my business, it was somebody that I met in line at a coffee cart in Seattle in front of Nordstrom in 1990. I was getting laid off from my job with this business consultant. I'm telling the guys like, oh gosh, I don't know, what am I going to do? You know, and then I turned to the face next to me and he didn't even register. I said, oh hell, maybe you know of a job. He'd been listening all this time and said, maybe I do. At the same time, I was connecting with people in the community, business owners, communications departments, PR people, and saying, this is what I like to do. And remember, this is 32 years ago. I was much younger. And I found this guy in the office building. And I said, I am now freelancing, because I sat down and talked with somebody who said, why don't you freelance? And ding, you know, it's like this bell went off and yes. And that was my first freelance gig, contract gig, was with this man.
Just with the gentleman in line at the coffee shop.
You never know. You never know. It may be somebody that you don't think, oh, I don't know if we really, oh yeah, you might, you know, or they might know somebody. So, and you have to have a sense of fun about it. I don't do social media. The only way I do it is if somebody wants to be friends, and I am on Facebook, but I don't do it, or connect through LinkedIn. I'll contact them. I'll go to their website. I'll call them up. I'll email them.
Okay, so what are some of the other spokes?
Oh yeah, I'm spending too long there. Okay, so then I decide I'm going to commit to a connection with this person. I like them. I want to stay connected. I'm going to commit to this. So then I make contact. And contact to me, like I choose who I want to stay in contact with, is communication, you know, conversation, getting together, making it a regular thing, contacting them regularly. I have a follow-up calendar it's a bossy follow-up calendar, paper, the book, and it's very bossy, and it tells me, it's like the old tickler file, you know, it tells me who to call that day, and okay, I'll call, you know.
Bossy, I like that.
Yeah, and it's there's chemistry involved in this, like is there business chemistry or personal chemistry, and then to stay in contact, how do they want to stay in contact? Maybe they don't want me to call. I ask them, when's a good time to call or email you next? And I make a note. Everybody's got a call sheet. I make notes on it every time I'm in contact. Or let's say I'm in contact 5 million times, they don't call back. I still write that down. Do I dump them? No, I don't like, I wouldn't use that word with it. But
you know, release them.
Do I release them, or do I keep going? And when I've kept going, like just a recent client, after 3 years of no, we don't need you, keep calling, they hired me. Go figure. Staying in contact. It only takes a second to hear no, I'll call you again if that's all right.
Oh, I like that. Hang on, say that again.
Then it only takes a second to hear no. I'm fine with rejection. And, you know, it's sort of a game like, well, let's see how long it takes for them to say yes. It's kind of fun. I mean, I have to admit, it's kind of fun. And and then knowing, you know, that I haven't heard from them and it's not a go, I'm just gonna let it go.
Right.
And no hard feelings, believe me, you know.
Right. Okay, so what are the final steps on your, what are the final spokes?
You're pulling me along, that's good.
You're doing great.
So then it's, you know, then this is where you form connections, you know, you have your colleagues, you have your clientele, your collaborators, co-working, and then it could go into companions and, you know, coupling up with people. Not, yeah, I don't want that to sound weird, but, you know, if you were thinking of other, like, you know, romance, it goes there. I don't mean in the business world, but I mean just connecting in general.
Right.
There is a line that I do draw between business and friendship in terms of relationship, and I know when to cross it in the relationship and when not. If we're friends, Ginger, you and I we're business when we're in business, and we're in friend mode, we are friends, you know? So, and I tend to connect that way with people who also know how to do that well. But many of my clients have become friends, and some friends have become clients.
There you go.
And then from there, number 9 is forming community. So I've connected, I've, you know, communicated, we've collaborated, and now I have a community of business associates and friends and acquaintances of different concentric circles of involvement and closeness. And then the 10 is is back to me when I feel and look at all that, and I think, gosh, that's really added to connection in my life and deepened my own sense of connection to others, those
Mm,
experiences,
mhm.
and then that brings me back to what do I care about most?
Oh,
And
so
it
it's
starts
very,
all over again, all the time. Yeah.
it's definitely a circle. Oh, I love
Yeah,
this. Claire,
it is.
is this, do you have this published on your site?
No, because I never gave any thought to this till you asked me. I mean, in my mind in kind of a scattered way, but I never put it down in an organized way.
Oh,
Hey,
this
if
is,
anybody wants to hire me to write an article on it,
I will. I will. I'll put you in my next book. We'll have a chapter with Claire. So, wow. So I asked for 3. You gave us a 10-step, a 10 component circle. I love this circle of connection. It's fantastic. A 10 component that all builds on each other and then is also self-renewing.
yeah,
I like that. It's not depleting, and you're making choices along the way. Say, it's just like in
yeah,
my book, The Connectivity Canon, there's a Y in the road. Do you stay or do you go?
right.
And like you said too, I love that you said that, and D, I see you nodding your head a lot here too. It's like, D is in sales. She's with us live today. And she's like, yeah, I get that, because a no simply means they're not at the space. So like you, Claire, you keep going, you keep serving. Adrienne, I know you know this too, with the education world, like, yeah, there's a lot of dragons to slay every day and there's so much good. So let's keep going with the good. Rich, Glenda, the other people
Yeah.
who are here live, like, you know what Claire is talking about because you do it in your own way. And I love this circle of connection. So good. And so that, I think, more than covers the 3 things, so to speak, that because you gave us 10, it's great. And again,
Well,
if you're watching,
oh,
please,
can I interrupt? Okay, so I
please.
also want to add, even though the person has said no, or you have decided, I don't know about that, I still remain open because you could meet them. They could go into another position at another magazine or another company and have a
Mhm.
big, have a completely different situation, or they've come to a
Yes,
different part, I
yes,
always stay open.
yes, absolutely. I heard you say you never know a few times. I turn that maxim into my own version. I say, you always know. Something will connect, something will
Yeah,
ping, something will resonate, somebody will pull up a seat at the table. You're like, oh, well, I'll be darned, look at that. And you can chase that chain of custody. And it's so fascinating. So to stay positive, and like you said, I don't take it personally. And that's an interesting thought, because who we are is a person first and then our business is the next. So to be detached and say, okay, not this time, not my person, good person. It's not a judgment, it's a
right.
choice. So Claire, I love this 10 components, 10 hubs for your circle of connection. I'd love to see you publish your own white paper on this, and have this as the Sykes right circle that, you're going to do what you want to do, that you'll be in the next book. So as we keep moving forward, and there's, yes, I need to get one coming. In fact, you could be my editor. When you think about your personal connection, now I know one thing you did during the pandemic is you created the
Yeah.
cabana. Tell us about the cabana.
Oh, I call it the cabin, but
Oh, the
um,
cabin. Sorry.
there,
Okay.
yeah, there's several things that happened during the pandemic. Number one, I was gonna be safe, get vaccinated, I wear the mask, do all that social distancing, social I put in quotes because
Yeah. Physical
um,
distancing is a way better
physical
word.
distancing. Yeah, I was good, and I also thought I'm not letting this stop me from seeing people. I had more walks with people. We stayed 6 feet
Mm,
apart and
mm,
did more walks with people in woods, in the neighborhood. So there was a lot of contact. And then I finally took my garage, which is really beautiful inside in terms of natural woodwork and such, with loft space. It's pretty. I cleaned it out and I turned it into the cabin. It's sort of an elegant cabin. And so yes, we were cold in there, but we bundled up. I had blankets and I had dinners in there, that was like from 2020, from fall of 2020. So I didn't stop. And I also, I would talk to people in parks, in my neighborhood parks. Mount Tabor is very close to where I live, is very friendly.
In Portland, Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon. And it's a great place. It's very friendly. People do talk to people up there. So there was that. And I stayed connected with my friends and those that felt comfortable, and weren't turning too inward, because I did too. My introverted side came out more. And I'm happy for that. I like it. I like my own company quite a bit too. But I didn't let it stop me. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I love that. And a couple of things, I'm taking some notes here, and I'm definitely going to watch this program again, because I'm not writing all the Claire wisdom down. My introverted side, boy, is that a nugget. And I like my own company. And knowing you well, Claire, I can confidently and almost arrogantly say, Claire is not a selfish person, meaning an arrogantly or bravadistic. I don't even know if that's a word, but you're not an a-hole. You're like, I like myself. And that, just talking about like, what's the connection with myself, how you started the circle. Oh yeah, what a gift to be introspective and think about what really connects you. And maybe some of I recently, my fine husband, who I adore, and our kids, dogs, recently uprooted from a place we'd been for 11 years because we wanted to live in a geography that we wanted to be. It wasn't that it was bad. It's just like, Claire, you're like, well, they're not my client right now. Yeah, that's not where we're going to live anymore. We're making those choices and thinking about, who do I want to fully be? And part of that is where you're at. The cabin, you created an oasis, a place with grace for people to keep connecting regardless. And to focus on the positive, I think, is such a magic gift. And it's who you are. It's coming out of you all the time. Claire, you're 100% who you are every single time I see you, talk to you, read your emails, whatever that might be. So you're clearly connecting with yourself well.
Thank you.
So as we round bend here, I'd like to close today, and we'll close the program out and stop the recording. And thanks for watching. Share it with friends, and then we'll stay on. Claire, do you have a few minutes to stay on? Sure. So if you're here live, if you have questions for Claire, she's totally game to help field. The question I would like you to think about for a moment and then share is, because the show is at the table, because we've been at the table a number of times together, and because I'm a serial dinner party host for both work and personal, who would you love to have at your table, Claire? Living or dead, we can play that game.
Who would I love to have at my table? Oh gosh, you didn't give me this question ahead of time.
Oh no, I would never do that.
So that I could really think about it.
Who's the first person who comes to mind?
Somebody like the Dalai Lama. I mean, somebody like Thich Nhat Hanh. I think the Dalai Lama would be really fun too. Somebody that's engaged in the world and cares about it and knows and connects easily with people and could go deep. I mean, that would be the general thing, where there's a lot of cross pollination of ideas and such. But yeah, I mean, that was the first person I thought of.
Splendid. And I'm sure the Dalai Lama would love to come visit you. And I like I think he'd be fun too. Yeah, he seems to have a very joyous outlook and a sense of humor. And I mean, face it, that the colors he wears are brilliant. Like that lives up the room right there.
Outfit.
Right. Yeah. Darling, I love what you're wearing.
Well, I have a whole list.
I bet you do. Okay, good. It's fun to think about who we want at our table, because you always know everything's possible. I believe that. I hope that you believe that. Super glad if you were able to be with us live today at the table. I'm Ginger, your host. We have special guest Claire Sykes. Go to sykeswrites.com. That is in the show notes. When you're curious about more of what Claire does, and perhaps you're in the market or you know that person in the coffee line behind you who could utilize, who is
Never
seeking
know.
somebody to help put their words into motion for their organization. So Claire, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, live guests.